Okay, so good morning, students. I will be tackling today about the poetry for children. First, let me share my screen. Mm, Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Okay, so our topic for today is about poetry for children. So let me first share to you the objectives that we will going to have or to we will going to tackle today. The objectives for today is we will going to define the meaning, the purpose, and the uses of poetry for children. And also we will going or I will going to share some qualities and importance of poetry, and also I will going to um, share or describe some steps in making a poem. Okay, so please lang ko unmute mute sa inyong mic para dili siya maka kuan. Okay, so now let's proceed to the next one or the first. Okay, so before we proceed to our lesson for today, before we proceed to our topic, okay, so let's have a warm up first. I will going to ask you about this one. What is the difference between poetry and poem? In your own opinion, it's an opinionated question. There is no wrong answer here. Okay, I will going to accept answers. What is the difference between poetry and poem for you? You can share your thoughts.
Me,
Or
miss.
okay, Jen, can you?
So a poem can be also be epic, narrative, dramatic, or lyrical, while the poetry is existed long before people became literate.
Okay, so thank you. How about the others? Paul is raising his hand. Do you want to answer? What is the difference between poetry and poem?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is the poetry and poem?
Uh,
Dari mo
uh,
kani karuton may.
Poetry is a literary art of writing poem,
Yes.
and the poem is the fundamental unit of poetry.
Okay, so yes, it's a fundamental unit of poetry. Okay, so thank you for sharing your thoughts, Jen and Paul. So now let's define what is poetry and poem. Okay, so poetry is a literary art of writing poem. Poetry is a literary form. Poetry is collected work and it is a secondary imagination. And also the poem, it is a fundamental unit of poetry. A poem is a written piece of work and a poem is an individual piece of work and it's a primary imagination. Okay, because in when you write a poem, first thing you will going to do is you will going to use your imagination. Am I correct? Am I correct? You will going
Yes,
first
ma'am.
use your imagination for you to come up to your want or what do you like to have or what do you want to make in your poem. For example, if I will going to for example, my situation today is I am so bombarded with school activities, or shall we say it's about love. Okay, love. Now you will going to use your imagination. What are the things that I experience about love? Then you will going to make those words, you will going to list down those words, and then you will going to come up to your um poem. Okay, so now let's proceed to the next one. Okay. So, what is poetry? Let's have this one again. So, poetry is an artistic expression of thought and emotion in rhythmical language. Poetry is a kind of verbal music. Poetry is like a musical score that must be interpreted by the human voice in order to get the fullest enjoyment. The poet uses words for sounds effects as the musician uses musical notes. Okay, so in the other hand, poetry is also a literary work in which special intensity is given to the expression of feelings and ideas by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. So, poems collectively or as a genre of literature. So that is poem. Okay, so before we proceed to the next one or the next slide, I will going to ask you what is the importance of poetry? For you, what is the importance of poetry or what are the benefits that we will going to get? What are the benefits of poetry or importance for you? Wants to answer that one? It's still an opinionated question. It's opinionated. There is no wrong answers here.
Sa ito pangutan na.
What is, what is the importance of poetry, or shall we say, what is the benefits that we will going to get? What is the importance for you? What is the importance of poetry?
Ah, malipay ka.
Malipay. Okay, it makes you happy. Okay, it makes you happy in what way, man? In what way that poetry or poetry makes you happy?
The way that the way nga ang kanang ang sa kanta.
Okay, so you said that those songs for children, yes, it's still a poetry. The songs for children, poetry for children makes you happy. Yeah, it makes you or it gives you enjoyment when you sing the song. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So, thank you for that one. Who wants to answer? How about the others? Okay, so maybe none. Now I will going to share for me. The importance of poetry is it helps us understand and appreciate the world around us. Why? Because, for example, it will if for example, now you're sitting in a field. Okay, let's use our imagination. You're sitting in a field and then you observe the things around you. You observe the things and then by that you use your imagination. And then you will say, let me think or let me try to make some piece. Okay, so you put or you list the words that you observed around you. And then you, for example, the trees, they're swinging, the birds, like that. So you understand and appreciate the world around us. That is, and and also there are the benefits. This some benefits for me. Um, the benefits of that is you will going to improve your language skills because the process of writing poetry can build vocabulary rather. So individuals will learn how to incorporate new words when writing and understanding their meanings. Okay, so by making a poetry, it will going to enhance your vocabulary skills because you will going to list those words and then you will going to understand the meaning of that one. Okay, so that is poet. You will going to or it will going to enhance your vocabulary skills. Okay, so now let's proceed. So now let's proceed to the next one. The purpose of poetry. Okay. There are lots of purpose of poetry, as what I've said earlier. It helps us to understand and appreciate the world around us. As what I've given example, and poetry teaches us how to live. Okay? So, and also poetry it's a literature that evokes a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience or a specific emotional response through language chosen and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm. So as what I said, the purpose or the benefits that we will going to get in of poetry is that improve language skills, sparks creative thinking, and expands world views. Okay, creativity is very important when it comes to writing a poetry. Use your imagination, use your experiences, or your, shall we say, um the issues, or shall we say the issues that we facing right now, or we experience right now, like that. So it's also improves your vocabulary skills, which you will going to write new words in order for you, and you will going to understand it in order for you to write your poem or your poem. And also it expands worldviews, so you can use your inspiration. Okay, you can use who is your inspiration, your loved ones, your family, your friends, your circle of friends, like that. So now let's go to the next one. Okay, so qualities of poetry. Okay, so qualities of poetry. Poetry has musical and rhythmic qualities that children enjoy. Poetry appeals to the imagination. The poet makes us see what he has felt, and he makes use of words and phrases that are descriptive, sensory, and associative. That's are the qualities of poetry. And also the emotional content of poetry must be sincere, worth expressing, and must be universal in appeal, and great poem must speak of experiences common to all people. Subjects of poetry for children must be varied. They must be subjects familiar to children and can add new, richer meanings to their experiences. So, as what I said, in order for if you were going to make a poetry, or shall we say a poem, then make it very expressive to children. Um, Use your shall we say the imagination, and make it that, or make sure, or shall we say, if you want your audience, if your audience is for children, then you will going to make sure that the children will what you will going to say, if the relate, the children will going to relate your piece. It's that shows very expressive, like that, so that the children will going to familiar the subjects of your piece, like that. And also um it is a rhythmic. You will going There are lots of styles. If you will going to make a rhythmic poem, then you will going to make it rhyme. And if you will going to write a free verse, then there is no rule in writing a poem in that one. It's just that you will going to write what you want to tell in your piece, or what you want, or what are the words that you will going to put in your piece. There are no rules in writing free verse. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so there are lots of classifications of poetry. So poetry can be classified according to form or according to their subject's content. So let's try to look for the next, let's go to the next slide, then read the classifications of poetry. Okay, so types of poems according to form. Okay, so first one is the narrative poems, which you will going to tell a story and related events. Okay, so the first types of narrative poems is the ballad, epic, and metrical. Okay, I want to ask you, class, what is ballad? Can you share your opinion about ballad narrative poem? What is ballad?
It's a folk song.
It is a narrative poems that are intended to be sung. Okay, so thank you for that. So it is an iambic narrative poem. When you say iambic, it is one stressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. That is iambic. It is often set to music and typically arranged in poetic lines with 6 or 8 syllables in each line. And if you were going to make ballads, then you will going to use this the 4 poetic lines with 6 and 8 syllables in each line. And also, poem is sometimes set to music. Yes, as what you've read. And then it actually began as folk songs and continues today in popular music. So, one of the example of ballad for me is love songs. So many love songs today considers ballad. So these are the types of narrative poems, which is narrative. You will going to tell a story and then you will going to sing it. Okay, a narrative poem that intended to be sung, that is ballad. Now, how about the epics? Okay, Jomar is raising his hand. What is epic, Jomar?
The epic is a work of
It is work of.
art
It's a work of art about.
that is such a novel or drama an example of such as an epic.
Okay, so epics. It is a Russian epos in its narrow sense, designating a specific genre or group of genre, a heroic narrative about the past. It is about the past since it's about the epic of or heroic, the adventures of heroes in the past. That is the heroic narrative about the past that comprises an integrated picture of the life of a people and represents the harmonious unity of a certain heroic world and its epic heroes. As what I said to you, it's about the adventures or the experiences, or shall we say, the life of people or heroes in the past. That is epic um epics, or it deals with the deeds and heroic adventures. So let's go to the next one. The metrical narrative poems that deal of love and brave of deed of a hero. And the example that I've given is a Florante at Laura. So it's Florante of Laura, the story of the two lovers which they really love each other. So since it is metrical is a narrative poem which is written in verse that relates real or imaginary events in simple straightforward language, form a wide range of subjects, characters, life experiences, and emotional situations. That is the example of metrical poem. Okay, so now let's go to the lyric poem. It is express the feeling, the mood, and the personality of the poet. So, songs are poems that can be sung. Pastoral are are pastoral poems are about shepherd and rural scenes. And sonnets, I know that you already know this one since we already tackled it during our senior high school years or during our junior years. So it's about sonnets are poems of 14 lines. It consists of 14 lines. There is definite rhythmic pattern, and elegy is a meditative poem that express grief, or deals with sorrow and death. It's agony, shall we say, since it's about sorrow, death, and grief. So you will going to hear it's a poem that express the agony, the suffering, or the suffer that you experience, or if you feel broken, or you hurt someone, then that is type of elegy poem. So ode is a poem that expresses exalted feeling, a praise for someone of something. So it is a praise, you um admire someone like that. So that's a type of poem. Now let's proceed to the next one. Okay, so let's now go to the steps on writing a poem. So step 1 is learn what a poem is. So poems are typically written in verses rather than paragraphs. They can include complete sentences or incomplete sentences and often have a rhythm. Keep in mind, poems do not have to rhyme. Yes, poems do not have to rhyme. If you were going to choose the free verse, then you don't need to rhyme those words. You will going to write what you want, okay, in your piece. So, now let's proceed to the next one. The step 2 is understand your purpose. This is the very um, important one. Understand your purpose. If you will going to write a poem, you will going to understand your purpose. Why are you writing a poem, and what do you want it to say? Like that. You will going to make or write a piece that is, or that you know the purpose. But for example, you want to write about your the purpose of your piece is about love, about the love of your life, like that, to your girlfriend or to your boyfriend, like that. So the purpose of your poem can dictate what form or style it should use, okay, and how long or short it should be, and types of language you use. So step 3, choose a subject. The subject is the focus of your poem. Yes, or what your poem is about. As what I said earlier, choosing a subject before you write can help focus your mind on that specific subject. So there are lots of subjects that we can use in order for us to write a piece. You can use your emotion, such as love or fear. You can use your, it's about, for example, a real person, or you want a fictional one, the imaginary one, or the place, or the feeling or acceptance of rejection, an object, animal, time, and a lot more. There are lots of steps in writing a poem. Now let's proceed to the next one, which is the brainstorm or the brainstorming. So start by writing down all the words that come to mind when you think of your subject. Okay? Poets and writers often imagine what other people or objects see or feel. For example, you will going to put yourself on the shoes of that subject that you want to focus. like that. Okay, and try to imagine and ask those or wonder those things like that. So for example, if a poet saw an apple, then he might wonder why is the apple there, or why is it there, who put the apple, who put it there, or what the apple is thinking. If you were going to put your shoes on that apple, if you are that apple and I am the poet, then I will going to ask myself, what are you thinking? What is the apple thinking? He might think that he will become an applesauce or an apple pie. Like that. You are going to put yourself on the shoes or of that subject or objects that you want to focus. Okay, so now let's have the step 5, which is choose a poem format. There are lots of poem format as what I've said earlier to you, as what I've shared. So the format of your poem is influenced by the subject and tone. So as a beginner, you don't need to worry too much about style or get caught by trying to perfect a format. So as what I said to you, there are lots of formats um of a poem. There are shall we say, there are many types of poems you can write. You can also, poems don't have to have rhymes and meter, but they can, if you feel comfortable using them, then you can use them. Once you've selected a format, you can learn more about the style of poetry by reading many examples of that type of poem. There are lots of you can easier types of poems are acrostic, the free verse. Yes, we use it. Free verse. There are no rules, as what I said earlier. There are no rules when you use a free verse. You just write what comes to your mind. Just write the words that you want or the words that comes to your mind. And then you can use the narrative poem, which you will going to tell a story. You just tell a story and include ballads and epics when you use the narrative style or the narrative type. And you can also use the haiku, which we know it, we already encountered during our junior high school years and during our senior high school years. Haiku, it is a short poem, uses a specific number of syllables per line. That is haiku. Okay, so there are lots of types for you. So okay. So now it's the end of our class today. So before we end, I just want to ask you one by one, can you give me your understandings or your reflections? What have you understand during our topic or during our lessons that we tackled today about the qualities of poetry, the classifications of poetry, or shall we say the poetry for children that I what have you understand? What have you
Uh,
understand?
kind of poetry can give us the can give us to write or to express our feelings or emotions.
Okay, so you said Paul said that poetry helps him to express her thoughts and emotions by writing a piece. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay, have you tried to make a piece? Have you tried to make a poem?
yeah,
Okay, so what is that all about? What is your poem all about?
love,
It's about
love.
it's about love. Okay, so thank you for that one. So Paul said that his poem is about love. Okay. So thank you for today class. This is the end of our lesson. So let's call it a day. So thank you for attending the class and participating. It's very well appreciated. Okay, so thank you again and have a great day.